peaceful life with his family. They lived off the land, and the dragon hunter used his natural talent with the bow to hunt and provide for the rest of them. The dragon hunter's father was a firm pacifist who refused to fight against began regularly visiting and taking whatever they wanted. On one such occasion, a member of the bandit gang decided to drag away the dragon hunter's sister whilst the others were searching the house for valuables. A couple of minutes passed before the bandit returned alone and gestured for them to all leave. When the bandits were gone, the young Breton looked for his sister and was greeted with a terrible sight. She was laying lifeless on the cold ground, the clothes torn and bruising round her neck. It looked like she had fought against the bandit, and he in turn had choked her, breaking her windpipe and ensuring her death. The dragon hunter was grief-stricken by the sight until his father, just as they said. Angered with the man's weakness, the Breton child gathered his bow and arrows and headed in the direction.
If they have your personal information, anyone can be you.
It didn't take him long to find their camp, and he waited patiently for the man who had ended his sister's life to appear. When he saw the individual appear forth from his head, rage consumed him, and all he could picture was his sibling's lifeless body. He knocked an arrow, and without hesitation let it fly towards the man, impacting the back of his head and killing him almost instantly. Before the bandits were aware of what was happening, he silently walked back to his home. Upon his return, he pretended that he had been out hunting to calmness, but he hadn't been able to catch him. With his excuse out of the way, he went to bed to get what little sleep he could. He is not able to rest for long before he wakes to the sound of screams and splintering wood. Glancing out of his window, he sees the flames open their necks. One of the bandits steps forward and bellows forth that they know that he killed one of their own and has to pay in blood, be it his own or that of his parents. Instead of giving himself up, he picks up his bow and surveys the scene as best as he can. There are only 5 bandits in total, 2 holding his parents hostage, 2 behind them, and the leader on the front. He knocked an arrow and took a deep breath, calming his shaking body and readying the rest of his arrows. At this point, the bandits are getting restless, waiting for an answer. The leader isn't sure if the boy is still asleep or just refusing to come out. As he is working out if he should just search through the house, he sees 2 arrows fly either side of him in quick succession. Turning to either side, he sees that both of his hostage takers have an arrow protruding from their skulls. He raises his sword and begins to bellow forth a war cry, but the words don't seem to come out. Looking down, he sees that an arrow has buried itself into his chest, piercing his lung. He falls forward, dying before he leaves.
The sooner you find the claw, the sooner our lives can get back to normal.
The dragon hunter isn't accepting this one.
Till next time,
Don't
don't let my sister do anything foolish.
The other bandit has made good distance by this point, so he takes time with the shot, measuring the flight path.
Show those thieves not to steal from Lucan. Take a look.
Descending towards the clean man. The bandit turns just in time to see the blurred shape of an arrow impact into his eye, piercing all the way through his brain and shattering the back of his skull. At this point, the dragon hunter leaves the safety of his house and slowly walks towards the wounded bandit. She has tears flowing down her face and is grasping her leg in pain, obviously wanting to pull out the arrow, but lacking the strength to remove it herself. Despite only being young, the figure of the dragon hunter seems to loom over her. The young man looks down at the bandit, taking in every detail of her face, from the bags under her eyes to the dusty brown colour of her hair. Without a word, he knocks an arrow on his bow and falls back the street, feeling the soft feather of the fletcher brush against his cheek. The woman begs and pleads with him to spare her life, offering anything for a second chance. The dragon hunter's face remains devoid of any emotion as he releases him toward the street, ending the woman's life in an instant. Despite his parents remaining unharmed during this event, his father was outraged with
Show them. The sooner you take a look.
Disowning him and ordering him to never return. Despite this demand, the dragon hunter stayed behind long enough to bury his sister, digging a grave away from the bloodshed of the fight, and wishing for a final farewell before he departs forever. Over the years, he will travel all over Tamriel, but never form strong bonds with anyone he meets, keeping himself to himself, and eventually finding his way to the border of Skyrim. The main skills of his build are enchanting, and smithing. The Dragon Hunter is an insanely powerful archer, so obviously you will want the archery skill to be as high as possible. I only have my archery in the mid-80s by the time I finish playtesting, so the character can deal even more damage when I show him the footage. But to maximise the damage output, you will want all of the ranks of overview. In addition, I highly recommend taking Power Shot, Hunter's Discipline, Ranger, and Quick Shot. These perks make you all round so much more deadly with a bow, and Hunter's Discipline ensures you don't run out of arrows too often. Hinge middle skill tree to get extra effect, and get all 5 ranks of Enchanter to double the power of enchantments. Make yourself a crafting suit with fortified smithing and alchemy, for whenever you do crafting, to get the best possible bonuses.
Alright,
Smithing
hand over your
will let you get
valuables,
100,
or I
for
will
you to
gut
get
you
the
like a
Dragon Armor
fish.
perk, which will let you create your bow and your arrows.
Well,
In addition, it will let you significantly
I can
increase
see
the
you're not
quality
one
of
to
the
be
perk to
trifled.
max out its damage. I would recommend going up the left side of a tree, purely because it requires less perk investment. You only need final perks, so the rest of the time this skill has little use to you, but it is essential for the build to ultimately work as well as it does. The additional skills are Alteration, Sneak, and Alchemy. Alteration works incredibly well for this build, as you don't wear any armor. If you get the Mage Armor perks and cast Flesh spells, then you can give yourself a half-decent armor rating whilst keeping all the benefits of wearing a full set of clothing. In addition, the Magic Resistance perks are great for any character playing on Legendary difficulty. The Sneak skill helps you to play as a powerful stealth archer. The crucial perk in this tree is Deadly Aim, which will triple the damage you deal with your bow while hitting. A lot of the perks aren't that necessary, as the character is already quite stealthy, thanks to the lack of armor, but the stealth perk is always a worthwhile investment. Last of all is Alchemy. This is my favourite crafting perk, and helps the character in so many different ways. Use a smithing potion before you improve your bow, and an enchanting potion before you enchant your equipment. If you want to deal some more damage, then take a fortified marksman potion, and if you want to remain hidden, then use a potion of fortified sneak or invisibility.
Look at that. More power with the arrow.
Need something?
Hello there everyone, and welcome to a very different Skyrim build series. The character builds I will be showing you aren't designed to be played in the same way you normally play Skyrim. Instead, each one will be limited to only using the 6 skills that they naturally have raised at the start of the game, and will be banned from using any others at all. If you're looking for a fun and challenging way to play Skyrim, then you really have got to try these builds out, as they force you to not fall into the same routines as you normally would. If you do find yourself needing help with working out what to do with limited skills though, then make sure to take a look at my Skyrim Level 1 run, in which I am completing the base game of Skyrim and its DLCs without going above Level 1. This series should help you see just how strong a character can become without having to rely on any specific skills to supplement. Before talking in more depth about what makes up this build, let me first tell you how the Mage made her way to Skyrim. The Mage was raised to become a member of a Foul War. She was taught her ideals and had her magical skills cultivated until she was a powerful sorceress in her own right. She was equally skilled in every school of magic, and her superiors assumed great things would come from her. Their pride in her ability
I'm telling
made
you,
her
I heard
blind
it.
to what was actually
Howling.
taking place though. She had never fully understood why the Foul War was so aggressively trying to take control of the world and take over the races of man. To her, it was clear that the human races were not to be underestimated, and yet this was what those around her were constantly doing. She knew that this mindset would only lead to the inevitable downfall of the race, and eventually she decided she couldn't just sit back anymore. At first she tried individually trying to convince people of her points, only talking to those she knew she
You
could
see,
trust in the hope
the
that they would
terminology
listen
is
and
clearly
understand
first
the
era or
truth.
even a...
As she starts gaining
Dragonstone of Bleak Cross Pharaoh.
it becomes
Seems
difficult
you
to
are
play her
above
out
the
on
usual
her
approach the
family,
Jarl
and
sends
it is
my
not
way.
long before she is confronted for speaking out against the order. A
That
trio
is where
of
your
Foul
job
War
ends and
break
mine
into the small
begins.
gathering she had
The work
organised
of the
and
mind,
demand that she come
sadly
back for
undervalued in
interrogation.
Skyrim.
Instead, she
My
tries to explain to them
associate
why
here will
things
be
have to
pleased to
change,
see your
to
handiwork.
convince them of how
She
to make a
discovered
stronger
its
empire by
location by
working with
means she has
others
so far
instead of
declined to
against
share
them.
with me. So
The
your
agents don't
information
even
was
bother
correct after
verbalising
all.
the reply,
And we have our
instead just
friend here
sending
to
forth
thank for
fire and lightning
recovering
from
it
their
for us.
hands. targeting
You
the
went into
mage.
Bleak Falls Barrow and
She is
got
able
that?
to create a ward in time to shield
Nice
herself.
work.
But this spark
send
of
me a
violence
copy of
causes
the
the others in the room to start attacking the Falmor, be it by magic or even just with their bare hands. None in the
you need
room
to come
came
at
close to the
once.
skill the Falmor
dragon
agents
has been sighted
possessed,
nearby.
but they had numbers on their side,
You should come
and were
too.
able to swarm the trio
Dragon.
and take them down.
How exciting.
In the
Where
scuffle,
was
at
it
least
seen?
4 of their own
What was it
died.
doing?
Their skin
I'd
burned
take
and
this a bit
scorched,
more
and they
seriously
all
if I
knew
were
they had to
you.
flee, lest they
This
suffer
dragon
the same
decides
fate.
to attack Whitefire.
Their escape is a tragic
We can
one.
stop it.
It turns out that there were more Falmor waiting outside, and as soon as they opened the door, even more of them were cut down. Fighting through the corridors, the maid ran as fast as her feet could carry her. She makes her way up to the Sunset Isles, and is able to escape
Yes,
to
my lord.
Skyrim. She has
Tell
to
him
stay
what
off
you
the
told
road
me
as much as possible.
about the dragon.
But one night, whilst walking
Oh,
through the
that's
woods,
right.
she sees a
I saw it
large
coming
man
from the
sitting by an
south.
unlit
It was
campfire.
fast.
Clearly
Faster than
struggling
anything
to
I've
free
ever
his
seen.
arm.
What did it do?
Walking over
Is it
to him,
attacking
she
the
offers to
watchtower?
lend a hand.
No,
The
my
man
lord.
had a short full of
It was just
thorns
circling
and
overhead when I
he was
left.
a burly and
I never
bearded
ran so
warrior,
fast in
and
my
she
life.
assumed that he had never
I thought
dealt
it
with
would
an
come
animal
after me, for
who
sure.
showed the slightest bit of
Good
kindness
work,
for
son.
him.
We'll take it from here. Head down to the barracks for some food and rest. You've earned it. Early, you'd better gather some guardsmen and get down there.
I've already ordered my men to muster near the main gate.
For now, all
Good.
that matters is that
Don't
she
fail
will
me.
traveling with the group to the
There's
border
no
of
time to
Skyrim.
stand
But in
on
the chaos
ceremony,
of
my
the
friend.
ambush that takes place,
I need your
she
help
loses
again.
track of the others,
I
and
want
is
you to
not
go with
controlled.
Irileth and help
Only
her
waking
fight
up
this
sometime
dragon.
later on a cart
You
beneath
survived
the
Helgen, so you have more
The
experience with
skills
dragons
available
than
to
anyone
the
else
mage
here.
are illusion,
But I haven't forgotten the
destruction,
service you did for me in retrieving the
restoration,
Dragonstone for
alteration, and
Farengar.
enchanting.
As a token of my esteem, I have instructed Avenici that you are now permitted to purchase property in the city. And please, accept this gift from my personal army. Kill this
very much
dragon
like to
before
see
it can attack White. No, I can't afford to risk both of you.
Before I
need
talk
you
about
here
the
working
skills,
on
I
ways
want
to
to say that I originally decided to start with this build as I figured it would work as a
In the
nice
city
and simple
against
main
the
build that would only require a
As you
small bit of
command.
tweaking to play.
One
Once
last
I
thing,
started
Irileth.
playing and realised
isn't
that
a
not
death
having
or
speech as a
glory
skill
motion.
meant that I wasn't able to
I
buy
need to know
anything,
what
I
weapon
found
you
out that this build was far more challenging,
Don't worry,
as I couldn't buy
I'm
any
very
spell tomes. This means if you're going to play this build in a full challenge mode like I did, then you will have to make full use of every spell you have in your arsenal, no matter how weak or useless you would normally use before. With that out of the way, let's talk about the skills we actually do have. Illusion is the highest base skill we have, starting at 25. In addition, High Elves start the game with a Fury spell, immediately giving us an illusion spell that will help us out significantly throughout the game. Whenever we are facing groups of enemies, a couple of well-placed Fury spells can thin out the ranks enough for us to finish off the rest of them. Destruction is going to be the skill that lets us deal direct damage. Ideally, I had wanted to get the Impact perk and treat this build more like a standard Destruction mage, but for that I would have wanted Apprentice or Adept level spells, and I was only able to get my If you end up getting stronger Destruction spells, I would recommend leveling it rapidly to 40, so that you can become a stagger-locking machine. Restoration has possibly the most helpful overall perk for this entire build, Recovery. This perk raises our magic regeneration by 25% at the first rank, which may not seem like a lot, but for a build that relies on Magicka for everything she does, this is going to be vital for us.
Helgen.
Leveling Restoration will be
Destroyed by a
fairly
dragon.
easy, as it should be the main
to
way we
believe,
recover
isn't
health.
it?
And we also get a guaranteed ward from Tolkien immediately after joining the Mage's College. Conjuration is a skill I ended up relying on heavily for this
Till
build.
next time.
We are incredibly weak to attacks, so being able to summon a creature to draw the enemy's focus away from us is critical. In addition, Conjuration spell tomes are going to be the easiest to
The
obtain
Jarl is,
thanks to the
as you
action
can imagine,
forge.
very
I will
busy.
go into
I'll
more
be glad
detail
to
about
help
this
you.
later on.
And of course,
Alteration
Now,
functions
what
as a
would you
mix
like
of
to
an offensive
purchase?
skill and general use.
very well.
skills.
I'll make you...
If we come
Is there
across any
anything
flesh
else you'd like to
spells, then we
purchase?
will be able to give ourselves an armor rating and help keep
As you
ourselves
wish.
alive.
Speak to me
Try
again
be
if you decide to
creative with
purchase
the
some
spells of this
decorations
school,
for your home.
as they can prove more useful than you would first expect.
Dragon's Reach.
I personally found that both Mage Light and Telekinesis came in handy for disarming various traps and safety. In terms of perks, I would recommend ultimately going for Magic Resistance, as this is great for any build, and also for Mage Armor if you get your hands on some decent flesh spells, but neither of these really need to be prioritised. The final skill of this build is Enchanting. This skill will be of little help early on, But once you raise the skill up nice and high, it will let you enchant various pieces of equipment with bonuses to buff you as a mage. In order to raise this skill, make sure to pick up every soldier you come across, and also every dagger you see. Enchanting daggers is a great way to rapidly raise your skill, as you can store your field soul gems and unenchanted daggers away for a huge power enchanting session whenever it's needed. The standing stone for this build will be the Mage Stone. This fits perfectly with the build, as it will level us up 20% faster, due to it governing all the skills that we use. I didn't switch over to any other standing stone whilst playing, as it is more important for us to be raising our skills than it is to have a small buff from the other stones.
Good afternoon.
The main power of this build
Warriors
will be
from
playful. 25 times faster magic regeneration essentially just means that our magic bar will come back in a second or two, even if fully depleted. For a pure mage build, I shouldn't have to tell you how critical this is. Keep in mind though that, as a racial power, it will only work once per day, so you can't just endlessly spam this during the
Need
fight.
something?
Although this build doesn't have any physical weapons, you will want to pick up all the stars and scrolls that you come across. Our limited pool of spells to choose from means that scrolls and stars will provide us far more flexibility than we would normally experience. Do keep in mind though that stars can easily eat through your soul gem supply if you recharge them too often, so make sure to not rely on these more than you need to, or else you won't be able to do any enchanting later on. The most important item of clothing worn by this build is the Archmage robes. These forced by Magicka and Magicka regeneration, as well as reducing the cost of every single spell in the game. For a build that focuses on all 5 of the schools of magic, this is invaluable. I had originally planned on wearing the use of going for the challenge element of this build. Instead, I enchanted my own circlet to wear, as well as a ring and Foulmore gloves. The Foulmore gloves looked great with the Archmage robes, and almost looked like they were designed for those robes in particular. In addition, I also wore the boots you can get in the Archmage's quarters, which are enchanted with 40% resist shock, and Savasarem's amulet, which is a quest reward necklace that will fortify magic. The main attraction to this build will be the College of Winterhold. I've been talking about the college throughout the video, so this should come as no surprise. I was able to complete the College of Winterhold questline by the time I was level 16, so it's one that can be dealt with fairly early on too, and which will provide you a ton of great items to complement the build. Followers will be incredibly helpful for this build.
Spread out and look
We
for
can't
survivors.
afford to be
We need
targeted
to know
directly
what
by the
we're
enemy
doing.
too often, so having someone else acting as a meat shield will help keep us alive. I would recommend going beyond the College Apprentices as your main goal to stick with the theme of the build. But right at the start of the game, feel free to just pick up Faendal or Sven for a quick helping hand.
No
The
sign.
mage will play very differently depending on what spells you happen to come across. I personally didn't find too many spell gems while travelling, so I ended up relying heavily on the conjuration spells I was able to access through the action arc forge.
No, get back.
By going
It's
to the
still here
early
somewhere.
on, I was able to
Brookie
get
and
my
Todd
hands
just
on
got
powerful
grabbed when they tried to make a run
far
for it.
earlier than would be expected. I'll leave in the description some of the best recipes from the action arc forge, so you know what items to keep an eye out. And then anything on the facial hair. Ooh, ooh, both got an exciting.
They laughed and said we would never make it.
Godwin, what happened here? Where's this dragon? Quickly now!
I don't know. Let's save us. Here he comes again.
Here he comes! Find cover and make every arrow count!
But now we're about a week ago maybe, and now I've decided it's time to start a challenge run of the game, because surely I'm in a good enough state to do a permanent run of everything. And yes, as you saw, technically I kind of started out as dead, but I'm alive, so the next step is the one that counts. Yeah, for now we're dealing with the fact that we kind of have been dead, and we're overlooking that. It is perfectly fine. And yes, we acquire our first weapon here. Nice and simple, we have a rusty long sword. Oh, we are unstoppable now. Yeah, for those of you who haven't tuned into the live stream or saw the first look I did maybe a year ago, this is the fantasy game. Similar to Skyrim in some senses. You see plenty of things that do look similar as you go along. And this game is very good. You'll occasionally get gold, but it's very cool. You can break these as well. See, there we go. We've got some basic rats to destroy here, but I think I want to destroy that first. That's 17 gold. Look at that. Yeah, you get tutorialized quite heavily at the start, but I don't think those things are dead. We see the fight going on. Oh. And there's the swap for our enemies fighting against each other. We don't really have too much what's going on with the character at the start, but all common stuff, all making out, everything will be fine. Oh. And now we get our first fight with the Tuatha, who can be quite tricky. So, oh bro! Panic's a bit there. There we go. Oh, I could have juggled him. There we go. Juggle your enemies. Great fun. And here, perfect. Got some battered armour. And the gnome's going to try and close to me, but before he does, I'm going to just try and destroy some stuff. You can see the quest marker running after me. But, there we go.
You haven't come. Look beyond us.
Hello, but hello there, YouTube, and welcome to the Mage Starter guide. This is, as with my other starter guides, a little guide to get you going on survival mode, legendary difficulty. Just a few tips to get your build started. So, if you're going for a mage build, you'll just have come through Helgen Keep. What you'll definitely want to pick up on the way is Novice Hood and Novice Robes, which you should be wearing. These give a terrible warmth rating, but they're still decent mage stuff. Also by picking up all the potions in there, all the food in there, and all the ingredients in there. Additionally, there should be a spell tome of sparks, which I'm going to learn. You can sell it if you don't want it though. And one final thing, I highly recommend picking up the bear pelt, so killing the bear at the end. You'll get his claws as well, which are also very helpful. And brooms. Grab 1 or 2 brooms. I definitely advise that. Now, pick up snowberries. A couple of snowberries right there. And what we're going to do is run down this way and start picking up every single ingredient we find. I mean it, seriously, just pick up every ingredient you can carry. I'm going to be skipping over a lot of them, just because I won't be being too far out and I'm trying to get through this all quickly, but Here there's a blue butterfly. There's also mountain flowers of all different colours. You want all of them. You want everything. Take every ingredient you come across. Now, I am playing as a layout. This is probably the layout. I'm coming up to... Go away, Hunger. I'm coming up to this little bandit camp, and I can just fury the bandits over there. Which means they'll start fighting each other. However, as you'll see here, if you went with Hadvar, you'll have Hadvar helping you. If you went with Raylock, you'll have Raylock helping you. And I advise just kind of getting the bandits into the fight here if you can. This bandit always goes for you when you first fury them, and I don't know why. Yeah, normally it's on whoever's closest. If you don't have fury, you can just attack them with whatever you happen to have on you and try to get Raylock over to them. Or additionally, down around that path some way, there'll be... Oh, I'm getting attacked. There'll be Skag, or whatever his name is, the Wanderer. It's the Wandering Bard. Now, you can also hit them with flames, although let's be honest, it's not going to do a lot. So be careful with it and make sure you're only picking on enemies who are already weakened. Now, often they'll have Seared Slaughter Shaman, which is incredibly helpful. There's also third gear, which you may want to pick up. However, I'm going to be avoiding it, just to make life hard for myself. No, it's because this is the Mage Starter Guide specifically. I figure I won't be going for any armour. I'll literally just be picking up clothing. And speaking of which, down in this camp, there will be Black Mage Robe. Black Mage
watch over your battles, friend.
There'll be those things I just picked up. And also a lot of sexual stuff here.
I name you Thane
Black
Whiterun.
Mage Robes.
It's the greatest
These are
honor
basically the same as novice
I
robes,
assign
just
you
a little
Lydia
different.
as a personal
Every
house
other
guard.
stat is exactly the same.
I'll also notify my guards of your...
Now, make sure to loot the bandits. You can take their weapons or armor if you really want, but on survival mode you do not have a lot to carry with.
Wouldn't
One
want them
thing
to
you
think you're part
really
of the
do
common
want to loot,
rabble,
though,
would you?
is the Archer. Now, daggers, I would suggest taking any dagger you find with you. The thing we're looking for here, though, is the treasure map. So take the treasure map.
By Izmir, you did
We
it!
will
Jarl
be
has
using
appointed me
that
to be
very,
your
very
house caller.
shortly.
The
And
Jarl
here you
has
see is the
recognized
bard
you
who I
as
was talking about.
the title of
However, what
Thane
we're
is an
going to do
honor.
now
A
is
gift for your
completely miss
service.
a thistle. They've got
Guards
thistle
will know to hit
and
the other way
rumbles.
if you tell
Thank
them who you are.
Put my fire away.
I am your
Go up
sword
here.
and your
So this
shield.
little shrine of Talus that's just off the path. There's some bread and some gold. And there's also people who you can loot, because they'll sometimes have gold and clothing. You may want to take boots and stuff off of them. I'm not going to, but you may want to, and if you have the carry weight, I'd suggest doing it. However, what we have here is a dead Falmor soldier. He will always have a random piece of enchanted gear, just could be anything. Here I've got Iron Gauntlets of Minor Alchemy, which are actually amazing to have. You might get unlucky though, so I am literally just going to pick them up and not use them for the purpose of this walkthrough. There'll also be an Iron Dagger on him, I suggest taking that, it's useful for enchanting potentially, and Hooded Falmor Robes. These, as you can see there, will give you bonus wall bracing and full destruction. I doubt I'll actually be wearing these, but they're good to have for several reasons. What I will be wearing though are the Falmor Boots and Falmor Gloves. That immediately gives me 26 more points of war. Now, off of these, I was about to say cultists, off of these people, I can pick up a whole bunch of clothes if I want, which are nice and light, and also light weapons for enchanting purposes later. I'm just going with the weapons myself. However, if you think you're going to end up with Fortified Sneak or something like that, you might want to go with clothes too. Now, we're running back along the path that we just came,
Lady,
making sure to
could you
pick
spare a
up
coin?
any ingredients once again. And what we're going to do here is just continue taking ingredients
place I
until
can
we get
live?
to the Guardian Stones. Down at the
Oh,
stones, there's a hanging
wow.
by the big stone,
Are you?
and you
Yay.
want to accept
Thanks,
the
Mama.
Mage Stone blessing.
I promise I'll be the
Now
best
we're going to
daughter
go off
ever.
the path, however, feel free to take any ingredients just around this bit. Go away for tea,
Wait.
please, I know about that. And here, there'll be a little hunter. You need to cross over the street at this point. Take a look around as well, as you might run into some salmon, which are well worth picking up, as well as, look at that, whole bunch of alchemy ingredient fish. Now this way, hug the wall on this side. You might want to go into sneak mode if you're being incredibly cautious, because there's some wolves there. However, I'm just going to run past,
You there.
and they won't
I'm
aggro.
looking for someone in white.
If you go any closer to them, they get annoyed with you. Now up here is Anita's cabin.
Need something?
You can lead the wolves into her, but then she turns hostile to you. It is possible to kill her. I've done it before. I did it just in a practice when I did. but it's a bit of a tough fight, so I'm not including it in the walkthrough because
Oh.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Skyrim Survival Mode on Legendary Difficulty. This is going to be a bit of an unusual one. It's not quite a challenge run, not quite a walkthrough. Yeah, Hadbot, could you stop talking please? Go away. Alright, he's wandering off now. Yeah, it's going to be a bit of a showcase of Survival Mode, and what it's like for any of you who don't know. But more importantly, it's going to be making a build. And I'm specifically going to have all of you help me to do that by doing 3 very important things in the comments. So I want each of you watching, if you can,
Where do you want to go?
ideally 3 comments basically. First one will be the class of the character. So I mean, like, is she going to be a battle mage? Is she going to be a stealth archer? And so on. You can be as vague as you want. You can say, oh yeah, I just want a thief. Or you can be fairly specific and say, oh, I want a heavy armoured sword and shield character. I will point out we're playing as a female Nord, and I have run through how can keep quickly. I will go over that very quickly. Second point in the comments, though, is the morality of the character. Easiest way to do this is with the whole like D&D 9 morality chart thing, which I'm sure plenty of you have seen. Where there's stuff like neutral, lawful, evil, chaotic, lawful, good, neutral, good, and oh yeah, all of that stuff. Yeah, and true neutral and things like that. So if you want to see an evil character, if you want to see a good character, if you want to see something in between, just any comment that lets me know something about that. And the third and final thing is one survival strategy you want. So be it how to find good food, what loot is worth picking up, how to deal with Draugr in survival mode easier.
Cross the bridge at your
just
own peril.
Any specific strategy you'd like to see me cover with this build once we've got it made. And that means the series
Welcome
could be a long one, could be a short one, all
I
depends how
trust you
difficult
found
the
your
build is to
journey
make
to
in survival
Winterhold not
mode.
entirely Now I must
However, hopefully we'll be able to get through it
you
without
seek
dragging
something
on too
more,
long, and
I
it
will
should
be
be
happy
alright.
to assist
And
you.
here, yeah, I'm hungry,
It is no
and
great
I'm going to
secret
go into
that
the
we have been
menu
on
quickly
the
and
good
talk
people
about my
of
character.
Skyrim. Thus we
Because
must
I
take certain
leveled up
precautions in order
fair
to
bit
secure
up
us.
to like level
Perhaps.
3, I think, for it,
But
by
what is
going
it you
through
expect to
helping
find
keep
within?
quickly. I've
It
got
would
some
seem that
skills
the
raised up,
not
as you can
just
see, and
anyone,
some which are very
a
close
small
to getting
test,
raised.
if you will.
Just doing it's a help and keep power starter, major
You know,
slash,
I
just
think
call
you're
it running
right.
through help
I
and
think
keep.
you'll be a superb
But
addition to the
I'll
college.
show you my loot I've got on
Welcome,
board. I've
apprentice.
almost maxed myself out.
I'll lead you across the bridge.
But I've got better
Once you're
stuff I
inside,
can
you'll want
drop
to
if
speak
need
with
be,
Mirabelle
because obviously I
Irvine,
do
our
not need all of
master
this.
wizard.
I went through so far, as you saw
Follow
just
me.
there. I'm just going to put on these fur boots because they're worth putting on. Yeah, I've got plenty of stuff that I can ditch if need be. Just show you everything I have, so you know for anyone who wants to follow along. All the food you can get, all the ingredients. Hello there YouTube and welcome to Skyrim.
Much knowledge
And
lies
more
within the college's
specifically,
walls.
welcome to the level
I
1
can teach
run,
you, but I won't be
which
held
is
responsible
an
for what you
interesting
do with
challenge
the
idea I have
knowledge.
for Skyrim. In this version of the game, I am not going to level up. That doesn't just mean I'm not going to go up into the level up screen and hit level 2 and assign to health magic or whatever. No. That means I'm not even going to hit level 2. And yes, Reynold's talking to me. Turn away from him and just completely ignore him whilst I explain.
Winterhold's glory days may
Yeah,
lie.
this is going to mean
So,
if I
you
hit
wish to
level
master
2,
the
I'm
arcane
lost.
arts.
That's game over. So I've got to not use anything that levels me up, and just go through, well, ideally, I could finish the entire game and kill Alduin while still at level 1. Do you think I can do it? I reckon I can. But if you like the idea, subscribe to the channel because there'll be new episodes up regularly. There should be a weekly series if with any hope and luck, and also hard work and editing my part. But I reckon to be quite interesting, and seeing as my Let's Play for Skyrim is very probably, maybe, I'm not entirely sure, so this may well replace that.
But I won't be held responsible for what you do with the
should
knowledge.
be quite an interesting one to do. And I'll say right now, I'm playing on... Everyone's stopped talking about it a bit. Yeah. I'm playing on Expert, because I've done a bit of playtesting with this. Actually, took about an hour before this, so it turns out my microphone wasn't working. As always seems to happen when I do things like this. But I found that Expert to be the best difficulty setting to go on. Adept's too easy, just way too easy. But Master and Legendary make it a bit tiresome. Because it takes ages to take down enemies, and it doesn't add much to the actual game and to the challenge of it, other than just repetitiveness. So, to keep things interesting and fast-paced, I'm sticking with Expert. So, we up at the character creation scene, and you see the amazing character I've built with this. Because, yeah, we have a very, very special character. I made him today, and he's immediately become my favourite character. He's replaced the Dragon Hunter, who I built a day or so ago. I literally released that build on the day I'm recording this. That was my favourite build, and it's now been replaced immediately.
The
This
local
character I
lords
built
may
right
not
here
like us,
is amazing.
but they don't
So,
seem to
say hello
access to enchanted
to an
weapons and
amazing
armor.
and incredible Khajiit by the name of Mittens. And Mittens is a badass.
Welcome. We were just beginning.
Oh, Mittens doesn't find trouble, Mittens makes trouble. Okay, so we've just had our retired and being told to take his gear.
So,
but
as I was
that's
saying,
armor, and
the
that's a
first
weapon,
thing to
which we're not
understand
going
is
to
that
use.
magic is, by its very nature, volatile and dangerous.
No,
Unless you can control it,
Axby swings
it
armor,
can
no.
and will
This is
destroy
Mittens.
you.
Look at this guy.
Sir, I
You
think
he
we
needs
all
armor
understand
or
that very
weapons?
well.
No way.
We wouldn't
Mittens.
be here if we couldn't control
Look at
magic.
this.
Of course, my dear, of course.
Mittens
You all
beats
certainly
everyone up
possess some
with his
inherent
fists.
natural ability.
And he looks
That
good
much
while
is
doing
not
it.
being questioned.
Yeah, you see that
What
blade
I'm
on his
talking about
face?
is true
That's
control,
Mittens' blade.
mastery of magic.
Alright.
It takes
Cover?
years, if
Hell no.
not decades, of
We're going to get ready to
practice and
fight
study.
them.
What are we waiting
Come
for?
on.
Let's
Bring
get
it.
started.
Float like a bee, sting like a butterfly. Whoa!